Hello, and welcome to the Vandy 24/7 podcast presented by FanDuel. I'm your host, Chris Lee, joined by Seabass. Sorry, we are a little late in getting started. I was posting what needs to happen for Vanderbilt to make the playoff article over at our website. I'll drop that in the chat. People can read that for free. That's my gift to you for this week. Spent a lot of the week working on that. And, of course, what happens is when you get done with something, almost done, you don't hit save or it doesn't save. You lose parts. You have to go rewrite later. That's always fun. So anyway, that's been my last few hours. But enough of me and that. We're going to have my man Seabass on the show today. We're going to talk about Diego Pavia, Vanderbilt football, maybe some hoops if my man wants to. Welcome to the show, my friend. Thanks for joining me today.
Hey, Chris, thank you so much. I also sorry for being a little bit late. I had to stay to hear the reading of a will all the way to the end. Alas, I received nothing. Now I'm going to ask y'all all one question. That's a movie line. That's a comedy. That's an 80s comedy movie line. Now, all of our listeners out there, I want you to post it today. Don't Google search it. Don't Google search it. Tell me what movie that was from. I want to see how good they are, Chris.
Gosh, that is familiar. It's not coming to me, though. Somebody's going to get that before I am.
Somebody will get it. I would have gotten it for sure. So
yeah,
somebody. So on the post today this afternoon, answer that. See if you can answer what 80s comedy did that line come from?
All right. Well, we got people watching already. Somebody will drop it in the chat. We got a smart audience. They'll know it.
Sweet. See, I can't see the chat, so I'll just have to check through you.
Well, right now it's just me in the chat. Chatting with people. But anyway.
You don't really count as people, though, to be honest.
No, I really don't. I'm more of an entity here. At least
let's do this. What do you think, man? You're the captain of this ship.
Well, before we do it, we got to thank some folks. Vandy 24/7's football coverage is presented by former Vanderbilt kicker Joe Bulovas with Bulovas Wealth Management of Raymond James. If there's one thing we all share, it's that our lives are unique. Raymond James, we believe that's worth celebrating because financial planning isn't just about numbers and figures. It's about creating the life you envision. Whether you are building a future or preparing for retirement, a Raymond James financial advisor can guide you through each step of the way, all while following a plan that is uniquely yours. That is life well planned. To learn more, call financial advisor Joe Bulovas with Bulovas Wealth Management of Raymond James, 615-645-6742. Raymond James and Associates, member New York Stock Exchange, SIPC. Of course, most of you guys know Bulovas was Vanderbilt not too long ago and saw some of how this was developing into what it is now firsthand. All right, basketball season brought to you by our friends at the Wash House. Stephen Andrews, a good buddy of mine. That is his company. You handle the cheering. We'll handle the laundry. With the Wash House Laundry Center's new pickup and delivery service, your clothes go from being dirty to dazzling faster than a Commodore victory. Whether you're a student, alum, or diehard fan, we've got you covered all season long. Schedule your pickup now at washhouseclean.com. The Wash House Laundry Center, Nashville's cleanest play for Commodore Nation. All right, my man. Jake Kendricks asks, what's wrong with the screen? We've got a new thing on StreamYard that gives you a landscape option. And I don't think I've got it set up right. So I would say watch on a laptop or maybe turn your phone sideways. In the meantime, I'm going to turn this over to you to just talk and go where you want to go because my daughter sent me a text. She's locked out of the house. So I'm not going to leave on the front porch.
Don't you do like last time and left me for 15 minutes and I ended up eating a cookie and calling you a pervert. So come on.
Different issue today. I'll be right back.
Yeah, you're good to go today, man. Hey, first of all, hey guys, everybody, it's great to be with you guys once again. But I was going to tell Chris just a minute ago that it's I don't know what I'm going to do with myself this weekend because my two favorite teams, my favorite college team and my favorite pro team, as you all know, Vanderbilt, and then of course you may not know, the Colts are my favorite NFL team. Don't know why, I have been since 1977, and I can't change now just because the Oilers moved to Tennessee. But I have good news for you potentially for all our Vanderbilt friends out there, because if our fates are tied to the Indianapolis Colts, and I think they might be, when I say that, I mean the Colts and Vanderbilt, their fates might be tied together. This may not be that big a deal to you, but 2 weeks ago, both of these teams lost. Last week, both of these teams won in overtime. Both of these teams are 8-2, and both of these teams are on bye weeks this week. So, I mean, from a football aspect, I have no pressure on me. I can just sit back and watch. Just watch football. And, now, of course, I'm watching a little bit different. I think we all are, Chris, because now we're intently watching other games, hoping for certain teams to lose rather than waiting for our game to come on, see if the Vanderbilt wins that week. He's going to make me call him a pervert, y'all.
Sorry. No, I was having to text my daughter. If I want my phone to ring or something to happen, all I got to do is hit the start button on a show. And I mean, it never fails.
I was reaching for my phone to call you just now.
No. I did one of these things where, like, she was going back between the garage and the front door, and whichever one I was at, she was at the other one. So I finally just had to say, hey, front door's unlocked, come on in.
You know what you need to do for one of our segments is show that video, the wake up video.
Yeah,
from last week. Yeah, that would, I think they would too.
Anyway, Jake, apologies for the weird landscape view. I'm going to figure that out at some point, but there's no time for me to do it. I would say just watch on your laptop. Maybe turn your phone sideways. I think you'll get a better view.
But most importantly, But most importantly, we make sure that they know that it's not my fault.
Right. This time.
This time.
Yeah. I did put in if you're accessing this from the board, the 24/7 message board, the link on top should be the one that looks good, and the link on the bottom should be the portrait view that with the thing jacked up. Anyway, that's more than people want to need to know. Let's talk sports. What's on your mind with the off week? I just put this in the chat again. The playoff picture. I'm afraid that's becoming a lot more complicated than I thought it would be. We can talk about that. We can talk Diego Pavia. We can talk the Auburn game. We can go wherever you want to go since you're the guest.
Fairly burst on all of them, so you just let me know and I'll follow.
Okay. Now that you've had a few days to decompress from the Auburn game, what do you make of that and what it means for the team going forward?
Well, I mean, I look, it's not the way that I expected. And I know you said that, oh, boy, I hated to be right about Auburn with the offense. But you didn't say I hated to be wrong about the defensive because you were half right. You were half right about it.
Yeah.
But honestly, look, and I know people they get wound up about it. How many times have you heard it in simplest form that football is a hard thing to do? Hey, it is. That's the first thing. There are more than one ways to win a football game. We all know that. What I like, look, don't get me wrong. Am I happy about Auburn shredding our defense last week? No. Why would I? Why would anybody? A sensible Vanderbilt fan would be. But sometimes you have to pivot in the game. There are teams who win games a certain way. Look, let me give an example. We win any less against Missouri than we did. Our defense looked much better against Missouri than it did Auburn, didn't it? Did we win any less? No. It's a one possession win. Is the W. I'm not saying we don't have concern about these things, but in as much as I would be concerned about the fact that Auburn moved that ball at will, haven't done, and of course circumstances changed. One thing that didn't change though is Jay Durkin still had his fingerprints all over that defense, and we went through them like Swiss cheese, almost to the tune of over 500 yards, and nobody, regardless of played ever came remotely close to that. So I could sit here and be lament about what the defense gave up last week. You know what? It's about the end result, and the end result was a win. The end result was our win of the season. The end result keeps us in the C conversation. So while it wasn't perfect, we got the job done.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe it's just media is lazy at times, but I heard people talk about, Vanderbilt just got to win over a bad Auburn team. I'm like, what have you been watching? I was warning people for a reason last week. I said, this is the team that's got talent. You just don't ever know when it's going to click. I think Hugh Freeze wore thin on those guys. I think the concept throwing the quarterback under the bus, the inflexibility with play calling or whatever that was, where they had multiple guys calling, including him. Like, there was a recipe where it would look different. Now, I did not in a million years think there was going to be 83 points scored. I thought it was going to be crazier than people thought. But this thing where Vanderbilt got a win over a bad Auburn team, I just think is misguided. I mean, Auburn, let me look it up. I've got it somewhere, but like, they've been within a touchdown. They've either beaten everybody or been within a touchdown of almost everybody, have they not?
Won by two touchdowns in Waco. Put up 30 in that game.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, look, the reality is, look, it's time to make the move. I'm not saying that it wasn't, even if I like you, but back and look at most games as you mentioned, possession games, and the narrative on this Auburn season could be very different. But let's not kid ourselves. There's some very talented players on that football team. Obviously, on the defense, Coleman's gonna, I guess, develop into a monster. Is that right? That's the way it's looking. He's unbelievable, and I here's where I was wrong. The part where I was wrong was I said there was no way that Auburn was going to Ash and Daniel their way into a win. Well, didn't get the win.
It almost did,
but it wasn't because of him. But you there's no way you could have predicted it, because you were on parts, but you were wrong was everybody else, including myself, about what that looked like. That 45 points as a total looked like a gift, and Vanderbilt tied it by itself. I don't think anybody could, even if you believe they're going to move the ball on Vanderbilt with the shakeup, you couldn't have predicted. If I'd have said, Chris, Donaldson, your life on the line, Vanderbilt scores more than 30 points, there's no way you were taking Vanderbilt over 30. It's Auburn had up all year. It's just not what they did. Just some pretty decent offenses along the way, but we, when it was necessary, showed that we could move the football and some best out. Think about this, if you will, X-Fight, idiot fan on there from other, just mainly those guys don't have to let stuff go. It's unreal. But I said, look, 31 points on Texas defense, 31 points on LSU's defense, 45 points on all defense. Yeah, are you hearing me?
Yeah.
Maybe this offense is a little this, and we like it already, but maybe is it elite? I can't call it elite, but they just hung 45 points on Auburn. So
I think they're elite. Where do you want to draw the bar? They're either great or elite. I don't care. They're in this category.
That's fair.
And by the way, 2 points I want, like, if you put, I keep a set of power rankings. It's really good in predicting lines, just to see what it looks like for teams down the road when I'm plotting out playoff. Like, if Auburn and BYU, which is ahead of Vanderbilt in the rankings, playoff rankings, played on a neutral field today, BYU would be about a field goal favorite. Like, just because the team is 4 and whatever doesn't mean that's an easy win.
Yeah, I was going to try to guess that line, because I know when you said that, I was going to guess what that was. And we rationalized it out and talked about it. I don't know that I would have landed on that far. Would have been far. But, thing about it is, though, I might have actually, can't really do this, because you understand the job of a line and meant to do. I look at the way Texas Tech handled BYU last week. I say all that to say I wouldn't be shocked if that wasn't Auburn was favored beside the records, just based on that. All the close possessions, the way their offense looked last week, and the fact that BYU just got handled by the Red Raiders, who are a very good football team. Wrong with it. It's not like the game could have went either way. Honestly, that game should have been even further out of hand than it was.
Yeah. Auburn's worst loss was 20-10 to Georgia. And, a game that Auburn led at half. And actually Texas A&M, not that this matters, but like A&M, which is, the team right now that's leading the league, beat them 16-10. So Vanderbilt got a point on A&M. No,
That's what I'm
when it's
saying. Yeah.
overtime. So yeah, I mean, I just think that's first of all that the laziness of that kind of bothered me. Second thing, man, the more I think about it and watch, and more I watch Saturday, and you know me, I'm going to play it as even hand as I could. Diego Pavia's got to be your player of the year in the league right now. I mean, I get the arguments for other guys, for Stockton. I said, hey, I'm kind of concerned, that the Ty Simpson beat him head to head, but Simpson's been a little underwhelming since then. That's probably strong. I'm just
What
watching
about
the guy
Reed?
that's going out and winning them a ball game single-handedly against an elite defense. And Auburn's defense was elite heading into that game.
Yeah.
And then doing what he did against Texas. I mean, he's really had one bad 2.5 quarters against Alabama. Other than that, where do we pick the flaw with that guy? And it's not just it's not the teams they've beaten. And the thing that's hurting them in the playoffs is that their strength of schedule is not going to end up being what I thought it would be. But the defensive strength of the schedule has been brutal. I mean, all these teams they're
Somewhere
playing.
around 21st, isn't it? Somewhere around 21st in strength of schedule. I was thinking
Maybe, but I mean, I thought they were going to be
that's
top
not
10,
good enough.
maybe top 5. I'm not saying that. I'm saying that I thought they would be top 10, top 5 strength of schedule at the end of the year. You had some teams that weren't as good. No, look, there's weeks to play. Maybe those LSU and Missouri wins end up getting some luster back. I think they beat good teams there. But what I'm saying is the one thing that you can't question, like if you're naming the best defenses in the league, okay, they've not played Oklahoma. But other than that,
Like
the topic of best defenses in the league, Alabama's in that conversation. LSU and Missouri have been. Texas, talent-wise, was. Auburn certainly was. And there's some other decent defenses in there. Georgia's is not
LSU at
quite what
one.
it's been. Yeah.
Yeah, LSU at 1 point defense when Vanderbilt played them was way more
Right.
than they are at this point. So
that's my point. Look at the
Yeah.
defenses he's playing and what he's doing. At first it was the stat line's not good, not good enough. Now that's there. I mean, I believe he's leading the league in total offense. I don't know what more people want out of the guy at this point.
Hopefully, if it's Vanderbilt aspect, you're quite what you got from him. So, because look, if you think about this, the only suspect football he's ever played, other than those turnovers in the red zone in Tuscaloosa in a uniform, for me, were hurt. Like I talked a couple of weeks ago. Second half of that season, he gutted it out. And what happened? First, actually got an opportunity to heal. What happened?
Yep.
He beat the crap out of Georgia Tech. Yep. I mean, look, this guy, he has zero left to prove. And I'll tell you what, I'm working on it. I'm really trying to get to Nashville next week because next week is senior day. Next week is the final home game of what I consider to be, and look, I wasn't alive, when Bill Wade played, and stuff like that. This is the best Vanderbilt football player I've ever seen. He has empowered a fan base, and not obviously, but this is the best Vanderbilt player in history for me anyway. And this is his last game on that field, man. And if you're a Vanderbilt fan, find a way to get there the best you can. Because, we'll go out and we'll get us a good quarterback. I believe that. But there'll never be another Diego Pavia. Never.
Yeah. Here's the weird thing, and look, I could very well change my mind a couple more times. I think I feel better about them winning the last 2 games than I did coming into the Auburn game. And hear me out on this. The offense is what it is. You're seeing it. They're healthy. Nobody is stopping them right now.
Yeah.
You did have the hiccups against Texas with the that got them behind, but ultimately, I don't care what the circumstances were, putting that many points on that defense, that was an accomplishment in that building.
But what is the last 2 games, though, Chris? About this, it's told us that, and I guess we probably already knew, but when you let Diego work at a high tempo, that he is completely ready for the job. I mean, when they at last part of the third quarter into the fourth quarter and into the Auburn game, when they go up tempo and they do their thing, a lot of the times this year, what we've seen it, they go to the no matter what. They did that against Texas at the third quarter. You remember that? And even in this early parts of the fourth, hunting like, guys, you're down a lot of points. But when they get that up tempo going, I mean, they shredded Texas and Auburn over the course of 5-6 quarters. I mean, those defenses didn't have a prayer of Vanderbilt, doing a decent job of protection. It's the more time you get the ball in the hands of Diego, the off that they're going to be. But I think you said it right. These two teams were playing. I'm not saying anything, but I can tell you this: they're not stopping this offense, not those two defenses. Now, I'll say this: Kentucky concerns me a little bit, not because of 38-7, because that was partially about Kentucky, way more about Florida than anything. Now, the game plan in Knox, again, don't get me wrong. I mean, look. Tennessee's offense can be a monster, but we faced good offenses. But Tennessee has proven over the course of 10 games, they cannot stop the run. If I'm this offense, you're going to show me you can stop the run, because the more I run the foot, the less Matthews and then these other guys in this offense, Joey Aguilar, get going. Run that football. They can't stop it. They haven't stopped anybody running the football. I say, Ryan, I know we're not a particularly powerful time, but man, get Lassiter involved. Get everybody involved there. Do some of these jet sweeps. Keeps running the football. And what does our offensive line do? Well, they blow people off the football. That offensive line, to me, just based on what we've seen so far, should have optimum opportunity to run that on Tennessee, play ball control offense, if that's what they want to do. Or they can, can they win a track meet? Yes. I prefer not to do it that way.
Well, I think that's what it's going to be. I mean, and I'm glad you mentioned when they go tempo, they're unbelievable. Well, the problem you have is your defense. But hear me out on this, and this is a little bit based on information. I'm not going to go into details, but I think the defense has been more banged up than was publicly thought. Maybe that's an excuse, because everybody's banged up, right? So maybe are theirs any worse than anybody's? I don't know. But I do think the week off is going to really help them. It gives you time to game plan. And look, Clark Lee is a defensive guy. Everyone knows he was a coordinator at Notre Dame. He's going to take a lot of pride in what his guys give on that side of the ball. I think between health and a couple weeks to think about what they're doing and what's not working and figure out some hacks. Because let's not forget, early in the season, they showed up and played really well. And it's the same thing I said with Auburn. There's some talent here. I know that things recently have not suggested Auburn's offense could come out and be really good, but there were some indicators it could be on the right day. I think the argument for Vanderbilt's defense is a little different. It would be, let's look, I don't think it's a team loaded with NFL guys, but there are a few on the defense that'll play. But I think you go back to the season's first month and say that defense was playing really well. I don't think there's any reason why with a little bit more health, maybe a lot more health, in a couple weeks to think about it and make some adjustments, that you can't see something that resembled their September defense instead of their last 3 or 4 weeks defense.
Yeah, and I think we're also way more quicker to be critical of the offense than the defense at times. And here's what I mean. Actually, I had that backwards. So we like our offense quite a bit, right?
Yeah,
we had less than 300. We had less than 300 yards of offense against Missouri. Scored 17 points. Did anybody? Were we banging on how bad our offense is? We scored 14 points in Tuscaloosa, turned it over twice in the red zone. Has anybody been banging about how terrible our offense is? My point being, they've got some great showings, but they've had a couple of pedestrian ones as well. Those defenses had something to do with that. But let Vanderbilt give up 38 points to Auburn, and all of a sudden we don't have a defense? I'm not hearing that. They have shown me, just like you said, especially earlier in the year,
Hey, I think your connection's gone bad. Can you hear me? All right. I'll stall for a minute. We'll get into the mailbag in just a minute while I've got my man on pause here. The mailbag, if I can find it, is presented by our friends at Sutherland and Belk. They are the longest running sponsor of the show. Hopefully you do not need a personal injury attorney, but if you do, give Taylor or Russell a call, 615-846-6200, see what their rights are and if they can help. Terrific guys and terrific at what they do also. Seabass is on the guest line, presented by John Levin and Womble Bond Dickinson, also Yeaman Packaging Systems, leaders in end-of-line packaging automation. Those guys are all friends of the show. We appreciate them. Seabass is going away. I'm presuming he is coming back. I'll give it just a minute. If you guys have questions or comments, throw those in the chat as well. There's over 100 of you in here. Sometimes when nobody's talking, people don't chat it up. But yeah, there's plenty of you here watching. So drop a question in the broadcast or a comment if you've got one. And let me find the mailbag on the board again as I stall for time. I may be taking these solo. My man can't get his connection back and get back on the show. Midge VU says Seabass may be one of the most likable and unique dudes I've ever watched. He's like my father's brothers. It's interesting to see how you and he interact. Definitely a good and wholesome, most of the time, hour. Thank you, Midge. He and I are good friends. Have been for probably 20 years. And I think that shows in the show. Sometimes including the arguments. But no, he's a great dude. I don't have a bad word to say about the guy, and I'm glad he's back. Okay, we got a question on attendance. I'm going to try to save that if we can get my man back on. And okay, here we go. There you go.
So then he comes in here and says, look, I'm Rick James. Smack him.
Thanks for that.
I don't know, man. My phone just said, I'm doing the show here at the radio station.
Yeah.
The offices. I don't know what happened. Our deal had said no internet all of a sudden. So I can't guarantee this won't happen. So let's get it going.
Yeah, your connection's not great, but we'll work with it. All right, Nash Native. I'll leave the first part of it out. I'll let you have a laugh over that. What are the solutions to improving November and December basketball game attendance woes? I don't hear much about the topic being discussed from coaches or fans. The last part, obviously sarcastic. I don't know how much you've been dialed into basketball, but you've now had a football coach, a men's basketball coach, and a women's basketball coach make comments one way or the other about attendance recently. In the cases of the basketball coaches, both those, I know I was in the room when Mark brought it up the other night. That was not a question. He just took it upon himself to bring it up. I don't know the context of Shea Ralph bringing it up. And Clark Lee has said a few times here and there, hey, we need more of our fans in the building. Hey, look, I'm going to give you the preamble. I've been warning about this for a decade, saying they're doing nothing to build the fan base. Where's the effort been? I have not seen much of any. You heard me say in the last few weeks, I think the department's attention in the offseason was elsewhere. It was not on these things. And here they are. And look, I think there are layers to this. I've got more things, but that's where I'll start. I'll get your thoughts on that.
When we first talked a little bit about it yesterday, I said, it's Wednesday night against Eastern Kentucky, and there's validity to that.
Yeah.
And I guess I would like to compare that, Chris, against what other conference teams are doing in midweek games against lesser opponents. What does their attendance look like? I don't know what that is.
Well, it's better than what we saw at against Eastern Kentucky. I mean, you're having teams sell out scrimmages against Duke, and I get it's Duke. And again, there are more things. I'll get into those, but they've got a big problem.
Well, I mean, we're winning in everything we do. I mean, people love winners. But if this is a promotional deal, I mean, that should seem like that would be the easiest fix of all if it's just a matter of promotion, because we've got the product. Wouldn't you agree? I mean, I know we've got the product.
Yeah.
I don't get that. So we know that. And it's interesting because this is all in a time in which it's never been more there for the taking.
I
People
know.
aren't
I
going
know.
to Titans games. I mean, how excited would you be to go to the Titans game on Sunday? How excited would you be to go to a Preds game? I was there last Thursday. There were probably 30% Flyers fans there. I thought I was going to be the only one. Wasn't even close. It was about a third, maybe not a third, but about 30% were Flyers fans. And it's because it's a bad product there as well. And pretty much everything we're doing right now athletically, I mean, you got a women's soccer team that just won the tournament championship. Everything we do, the golf teams are fantastic. Both of our basketball teams are good. Football's good. I mean, we can't ask for more than that. But, I don't know. I don't know if it's a city makeup because people are coming from everywhere and they don't have long-standing roots to them. And it's just kind of it's kind of a, you know what I mean? I mean, if you live in Starkville, what else is there to do? You're going to Mississippi State games, things like that. In Nashville, you compete for everything else. But I don't want to make any excuses here. If we're falling down on the promotional aspect of it, here's what I'm saying. If you won't promote this and you won't do it now, dear gracious, when would you?
I know. Well, and again, you still don't have a football media relations director. How does that happen? Well, I know how it happens. It's the decision you made in 2020 to turn that over to the school. That's exactly how it happened. But look, I think there's different layers on the outside one. Okay. Yeah, I know people still focused on football. But look, and I grew up, like I was talking to Will Purdue the other night, that game, and like when he played, that's forever ago. And it's apples and oranges, but there used to be 12 or 13,000 people in the building. Nashville was not even half the size of what it was then. But I've said this for years. Okay, let me start on the things that have very little to do with them. It is a school night. It's a bad opponent. And I do blame Mark for this some. Schedule better teams. Kevin Stallings used to put together good non-conference schedules. Bryce Drew did it. It helps if you schedule teams that people want to see. That's some of it. The night was some of it.
They also have to be willing to play you, though, Chris. Those teams have to be willing to play you, and I think people understand how dangerous Mark Byington is. So.
Yeah, but I mean, Vanderbilt was pretty dangerous with some of Kevin Stallings' teams too, and it didn't stop them. Here's the problem: you're confining all the arguments within a circle that's about that big, okay? And all those arguments that I just mentioned, school, whatever. Other stuff going on, still football season. There are valid things within that. Those same things would have been true. The problem was when the circle of fans was that big, you had more people at games because if the percentages of people that won't go, I mean, I've said this for years. You go to games, you see the same people there. They're not getting younger. They didn't make any effort to grow the fan base. None. They didn't care. You don't get here by accident. And I get it. I get that things are going well. I get it. We're not glossing over that. We're not trying to. We've discussed all those things. But like if you live in a $1 million home and you've got a sinkhole, beneath your floor, and you got a tree that's about to rotting and about to fall on your house, that doesn't mean your house isn't nice, right? But it does mean you got some issues. And these are the issues that they have been breeding for a long, long time. Now, I think, some people will put the blame on Stackhouse. And look, he didn't help. But, some of the crowds weren't much different than what they've got now. I think the women's issue is a little different. I'm not even going to get into that one because God knows people will take liberties with what I say. And I'm not going to set myself up for that. But I do think that it's a bunch of things. But I think the biggest thing is that the fan base has just shrunk and shrunk and shrunk. My brother said this to me very, very well one time. He said, he said this to me, I think, within the last year. He said, I used to arrange my Saturdays around their football and basketball games. And he said, I just don't, half the time, I don't know who they're playing anymore, till it's game day. There's times games have happened. He didn't know they even had a game. I think when you get in the habit, and I'm kind of there with the Titans, when you get in the habit of the product isn't good enough to where you're interested to tune in, it takes a while to get that back. It takes a long time to get that back. If you have a fight with your girlfriend or a couple of them and you're a jerk to her or neglect her or whatever, like it takes a long time to mend that relationship. And that's what I've said the whole time. Once you break this thing, it takes a whole lot more energy to put it back together than it did to keep it together in the beginning, and just like hanging on to bad coaches because they just didn't care. They were going to do what they were going to do, not marketing the program, pissing fans off with this and that. Like it all took a toll to where now, there are valid excuses, but the problem is you have shrunk the pie of fans to where instead of like the size of a pie you get at the grocery store, one of those jumbo Thanksgiving pies, it's like the little tarts you get that you can eat in 5 bites.
Chris, I was not able to make it to any basketball games last year in Memorial. When it got rolling, especially in the conference play, and Vanderbilt kept winning, what did it look like then? I honestly don't remember. Was it pretty good?
You had thousands of empty seats still, and you had a bunch of other teams' fans. Like
even
now,
into
this
the
place,
conference,
even Ole Miss and Missouri and teams like that used to bring. And see, that's the thing. As the city has grown, what you have is you have more SEC alums here from other places, and they come thinking, "Hey, this is a chance at a win." Now that part may not be as valid as it was 2 years ago, but and this drove me crazy. I heard at the time when people said, "Hey, look," when you heard justifications that the growth of the city actually made it harder to market your team, I'm like, that is the worst excuse I've ever heard. That just means we're going to sit and be lazy, and we're going to gaslight you into accepting that. This has been brewing for a long, long, long time.
Well, then I don't know outside, because if winning, but what do we always say? Winning cures everything. Well, if winning doesn't cure that, then I don't guess there is an answer then.
Yeah.
But
I think it's what my brother told me. People have just gotten out of the habit of going, and they haven't built back new fans for the people who've left or worse or dead or in a home somewhere and just can't go.
Let me ask you this: who are those fans that are showing up for these football games then? That wasn't 80% Auburn fan by any stretch.
No, I think that the student that they've gotten the student attendance thing more right than they've ever gotten, and I give a lot of credit to the chancellor for that. I think the way that they recruit and prioritize seems to be a little like they've done something that is resonating with the students, and maybe it's beyond the chancellor. I don't know who the credit goes to. That's something that's helped. Here's another story. Like I ran into a friend of mine today. It was one of my brother's friends. I went out to see my dad today, and we went to lunch. Ran into one of my other brother's high school buddies, and he just came up to me and just big Vandy fan, chatted my ear off about football, and he just said, I just tuned out for 5 or 6 years. There was nothing for me to be there for, and now I'm getting back in the habit, and I'm energized, and so some of that is coming back, but. I mean, the stands tell the story.
I don't know what to do about that, but I do believe, especially as conference play comes in, if Byington, look, I mean, we made the tournament last year, and if they get pointed in that direction again, those students are going to get crazy. It's gonna, but I get it. They've worked on the students. How do you get the local population? How do you cultivate new fans? I don't have an answer for that. I'd love to get that because, I mean, the facilities have gotten better. The product certainly is getting better. And as I mentioned, from the major sports and even some of those mid-rung sports, we don't really do much of anything poorly. If we play it, we're pretty good.
And Isaac
I don't know what else we would do.
Isaac made a point in the chat. When SEC play starts and the basketball team has a great record, Football's over, basketball, tennis, world. It will. But here's what it is. What 20 years ago was 14,000 for, I don't know, you're playing conference game on a Saturday, went to probably 10 to 12. And now it's probably gone to 9,500 or 10,000, unless it's Kentucky or Tennessee. That's different. But it's 3,000 of other teams' fans a lot of times.
I don't have an answer for you, brother. I wish I did.
Yeah.
I mean,
well, we've made the point.
That is way beyond my scope.
Yeah, and I'm not trying to say the chancellor is the guy that's driving. I just think that the demographic of the student body might be a little different. Like, it just feels to me like there's more kids that come to campus now that just happen to be interested in sports. Whereas, 15 years ago, nobody cared. My perception may not be a reality, but again, you got to explain the student explosion at games was something. I don't know what it is. Winning certainly has a lot to do with it, but I've never seen the student section for football anything close to what it is. Even when Franklin was winning games.
A guy named Diego Pavia plays quarterback for Vanderbilt.
Yeah.
Who is very popular nationally, stars are showing up on our sidelines, and that's whipping everybody into a frenzy. And then we're winning. I mean, look, the reality is we've won 9 of our last 11 games.
Yeah.
Think about it like this. I know we got those 2 losses. Yeah. I get that. But we have won 9 of our last 11 games. Those are teams like Georgia Tech. Those are teams like LSU, Missouri, Auburn, South Carolina, Virginia Tech. I mean, it's not like we're just beating Charleston Southern and VMI. And we've won 9 of the last 11 we've played.
Yeah. Well, one more thing and I'll let it go. Show me a plan to get it back to where it was, which I haven't seen, and then show me the result, and I'll quit talking about it, and I'll make that deal to everybody. And look, I would love nothing more than to go to games and see that building, the football and the basketball venues packed and loud, especially in basketball. Man, I miss what it used to be because that was electric. And you tell people what it was, and they don't believe it because they haven't seen it, or they think they've seen it and they haven't. But I'll make that deal. When that happens, we'll talk about it and we'll find out why. But have a plan and execute it. I haven't seen a plan.
The other thing is, and I have no idea what attendance is like for these non-con games around the conference. For if you're playing, Missouri State or something like that. I don't know what that looks like. What I do know is that times are pretty lean right now, and not just in that's not exclusive to Tennessee. That's nationally, obviously. And I wonder if some of those teams this season early on are feeling that when they play nobody state. I don't know the answer to
that. Devillian Door, 5-star high school quarterback or a high dollar transfer quarterback. Which do you prefer to keep this thing rolling in the intermediate? That is a great question.
Man, I love that dude. That is a tough question. So are you asking if I could have Colton Joseph or Jared Curtis next year? Who would I take? Good grief. That you ain't gonna read any more questions. That's just that's great right there. I will say,
go ahead.
I will say just in this case, especially because of who he is, the fact that he's in Nashville, if that 5-star is Jared Curtis, then and plus I think he's going to be a superstar. I believe that. Wherever he ends up, I believe that he's going to be a superstar. But I don't have to guess if Colton Joseph's a good quarterback or not. I already know. I can turn my TV on against college performers, college football players. He's performed at an extremely high level, and he would be perfect for this offense. Nashville Christians, it's one thing to play against some of the teams that a successful transfer quarterback's played. It's a lot different from playing Friendship Christian. It just is. But all the things that come with someone like Jared Curtis and it being local and taking him away from Georgia, Just the optics of it would be fantastic. It would be the biggest recruiting win the program had ever have. And the reason I'll go with that is because I can always hit the transfer portal.
Yeah.
I can offer up enough
Well,
money and I can always do that. But Jared Curtis's do not come along, especially in your hometown.
yeah, I think if you want to pick a nit on Colton Joseph, and he's the hypothetical here, is it Old Dominion? Last 5 games, 8 touchdowns passing, 5 picks. I'd like to see that a little better. And look, these are not SEC defenses he's playing against.
Bro.
High school translation, you never know. I mean, I think to me, if you get Curtis and you're solid with him and making him a thing where he'll stay for 3 to 4 years, it's easier to get that guy than have to, lather, rinse, repeat with 2 or 3, right?
I get that, but you can't get that guarantee.
Well, there's no guarantee with either of these guys.
No,
So,
I'm talking about to get him 2 and 3 years. I mean, you'll get that year, and it depends on how it goes. But even if he's wildly successful, the price tag just goes up.
sure.
You know what I'm saying? So even if let's just say we get Jared Curtis, he does flip to Vanderbilt. And he comes out next year and he just kills it. He's unbelievable. He's as good as Diego or better. That's great. But all that did was now you're reaching deep down into those pockets. So I don't know. Would it be harder to keep a Curtis or someone like, it doesn't have to be Colton Joseph, but someone like that? I think it'd be much easier to find and keep people like Colton Joseph. But my thought is when you have an opportunity, if we do, I don't know the latest on this. I don't know where Jared Curtis ends up. If you made me pick, I would say Georgia. But that's not based on anything in the world other than his commitment to him now. When you have an opportunity like that, optically speaking, you have no choice. You take that commitment.
Let's see. VU Hicks 66. Do you believe it's possible that Vanderbilt can mess around and Coach Lee walks?
I don't. From an exterior standpoint, I don't think so. I mean, it would take a colossal screw up internally. I mean, he would have to, not just a little bit. I mean, they would have to bang the drum and said, this as far as we go, you're getting nothing else. I'm not going to compensate your staff for the job that they've done. And we've given you this, we've given you that. And this is as far as we go. And that's it. And that message resonated. And I think it would kill Clark to have to do that. But if that message was resonating, and I'll just say this, I understand, and I don't want to get back into all that other stuff, but I don't think that's the message he's going to receive with Deermeyer there, but one never knows about that. You never know about that. But I know this. I know he wants to be right where he's at. I know this is his dream, and he's watching it unfold before him and before his eyes, in front of his children and his home and his community. And every tie is right there to it. But you can't. That doesn't mean that you get to take advantage of that and just get fat and happy. You still have all this does is raise the stakes. So you're either all in or you're not. And people like Clark Lee, a good coach like that, who's made great decisions in the last couple of years, who played for you and is from your hometown. Again, these things have lined up beautifully for this program, whether they deserved it or not. Maybe the fans are the ones that deserved it. And now we're having a little happiness for the first time in our lives, pretty much. Because look, I think when James Franklin came along, we always knew it was not a matter of if. It was going to be win. And I understood that. I didn't like it. I don't know where he did it, but I knew that was always going to be the case. But this is a real opportunity where you got a guy that says, if you will take care of me, if you give me what I need, I will in turn, the product that you see, we will keep this going and we'll keep those fans and you'll stay on there and you'll get to be on places like game day and all this other stuff. But you have to do your part as well. If they show in good faith that they're doing that, I would be very surprised if he left. But I've met Clark, I've spoken with Clark, but that doesn't mean I know what goes on in his head or what he talks about at home with his wife. We've got to do our part. If we do, nobody's getting him, I think. That's my take.
Yeah, I agree. I think you've seen a shift in him. He's gone from I appreciate everything we've got here to we need stuff. Like, and now he's got a hammer that he didn't have before. Like, we need a bigger stadium. We need more fans in the stands. We need better facilities. There's never, like, I would have been concerned if he had agreed to a deal 2 or 3 weeks ago.
Yeah.
Because that probably would have meant that he had not pushed Vanderbilt far. Now, look, I think if they get to kick off against Kentucky and there is not a deal in place, and I'm saying that kind of as an arbitrary date, because I was told by somebody in the know, I would expect the deal to be done during the bye. So we're halfway there almost. Actually, we're 45% of the way there, whatever the number is. So you still got some time. That's why I've not panicked. You've not seen me say I don't think they're going to get. I've been consistent the whole time. I think they get this done, but I think the things that he wants are things that the school is going to have to acquiesce to / work for. They're not going to be things maybe that are easy to get done at the school, or they're going to require substantial amounts of money, which require fundraising and stuff like that. So I think, now look, the other reason I set next week as a date too, is because we're getting close to signing day.
Yeah.
And that could affect some guys and one guy in particular.
I've read that same thing. I think I maybe even read it on the board that he's not going to make any type of anything without knowing that Clark Lee will be stabilized and in place. And that makes all the sense in the world. But I mean, I would feel the same way, and so I think he's sitting back waiting on that. But, I guess my thought would be, because while some over there may not love all of this, they understand. They're not stupid people by any stretch of the imagination. So they understood that even if we got to this point, that wasn't going to be enough, that it was going to be an ever evolving deal, that they would have to, we've gotten here, which is a great thing. And it's been substantial. But I guess my thought would be, why would you do the work that it took to get right here from where you were and then just stop?
Well, and the message that sends
everybody,
is, hey, we wouldn't take care of one of our own who won at a higher level than anybody's won at, potentially in 100 years, depending on how this season goes.
Yeah.
And that is not the message you want out in front of you when you begin a coaching search. I mean, that would be a disaster.
Right. That's right.
But I think, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say that if you do take care of this, then what's the message?
Well,
hey,
then
we're for real. We're in this for real.
Well, probably. I think if you make forward-facing public commitments, then and say, all right, here's when we're starting and here's where it's finished, here's what it's going to look like, and show people. Otherwise, there's still, if they're cryptic about it, you could still say, hey, Clark really wanted to stay here. At the end of the day, he didn't want to move his family. And he didn't get as much as he wanted. I think if you show people what you got, you take that objection away.
And use the card because they don't have to show, I guess. Yeah,
well.
Yeah, I don't know.
That's my opinion.
I don't know.
I think if you get to Friday afternoon and an extension isn't announced a week from today, then maybe you start to panic a little bit. But until then, I'm just not. That's not how I see it. Okay, a couple more because I need you to be out in 3 minutes. So let's do lightning round.
I do.
Bel Air 419. Can we expect to see more passing in our remaining games against elite front sevens? We don't appear to get the same push from our offensive line for rushing, but they seem more capable in pass protection.
Yeah, I think it depends on game flow. Now, like I said, against Tennessee, if I'm not, like I'm going to tell Tim Beck about football, right? But against Tennessee, they're going to have to show me that they're going to stop my running that day. Because if not, like I said, ball control offense, that is the way to keep them off the field. You just run and run and run and run 6-7 yards at a time and stay ahead of the sticks and win the time of possession. It doesn't matter how good their passing game is if they're not out there passing it. So I would expect more run against Tennessee. Now against Kentucky, Kentucky's defense is solid. You look at these games like now the Florida deal's not much, but look at some of the results there. Texas had a hard time scoring points. Some of these teams, Kentucky can still play defense, and their offense is coming along. They're a far more dangerous team than they were a month ago. I thought, they're done. So we will have to play, but I just can't envision a scenario where they can replicate what they did against Florida, because Florida's in the soup, man. That 38's not about Kentucky. That's about Florida. at this point. So while I think that might be a particularly tougher game, I could see the Kentucky game being somewhere along the lines, follow me here on this, a 31-21 type of deal, where they're able to score some points, but at the end of the day, they just don't have quite enough firepower to keep up with Vanderbilt. Because remember, one thing we know here is when we talk about Vanderbilt's offense, and the numbers are what they are, but Vanderbilt is capable at every aspect of offense, of moving the football and ways to do it. We already know they can, because think about this. What were all these fans saying? Diego hasn't thrown for over 200 yards against this and that. And then what happens?
He's
all of a
lighting
sudden
everybody up.
He's lighting them up like a Christmas tree. So the whole adage that we can't is ridiculous. It's stupid. We can, and it's about game situation. But this team can run the football. This team can throw the football, and they tend to kind of force their will and make the game go in the direction that they want. Which is why I was happy to see we have shown that we can win a knife fight in the middle of the alley. We've shown that we can win a track meet, and we've shown we can win everything in between there as well. So, how you want to do it?
That's a great point. And Ian, I think your connection went bad about the time I was about to get into it, but I really do feel better about their chances the last two games than I did heading. The Auburn game, I had concerns about. You heard them. You saw how that played out, but they won it. I think Kentucky is going to catch a better Vanderbilt effort in a couple of weeks, and I don't think they can handle it. They're getting better, but I just think you're talking about $2. And I think Tennessee, that Florida game may mean a lot in terms of what shows up. I'm hearing stuff that there's some concern of a mail it in up there. Now, I will need to see it before I believe it, but I'm just telling you that has been in the air from people that are dialed in there.
This would be an overreaction, so I don't really mean what I'm saying. But if they're mailing it in because they've got that third loss at this point, then you got the wrong people in charge of football. I mean, look, is the CFP there for them right now? No. But 9-3 absolutely is, with a 10 win in a bowl game. You've got FaZe and Brandon coming into town next week. They're still recruiting quite well. I'm gonna tell you something right now. As a recruit, if I come to your place and they got a big group of kids coming in for the next New Mexico State game, and I can see, and don't get it twisted. It doesn't matter what a coach says, or screw what a coach says. It's about what those players say to each other, to those recruits. And that is who they're going to be listening. And if they see that those cats have mailed that in, man, guys, this is not about, man, I grew up loving Rocky Talk, and let's go Vols. You know what it's about now? It's about money. College football is only about money. And if you've mailed it in and your program mail it in, you're costing me money if I sign with you. So I would be, and Josh Heupel does not strike me as that. He is a very good football coach, and I would be stunned. Now, sometimes you just can't help it if you've got bad seeds in your locker room, and the only thing you do is get them out of there. And I get all that. But if they mail it in when they could still win 10 games this year, I would have serious questions about my coaching staff and the direction of my program. You may be 100% right. I think they curb stomp the Aggies. I think they go down to Gainesville, who's already mailed it in, but I know they'd like to ruin it for Tennessee, but Tennessee season's already got ruined. You know what I'm saying? So if you're Florida, it's just the next game, even if you hate the Vols, and then, in a couple of weeks you go in there and now you've got a 9-2 Vanderbilt, and you have the opportunity to make sure they don't get to the CFP, and you can continue with your idiot fans to call us little brother and Vandy and stuff like that. You're going to take that opportunity to do so. So if they mail it in, it would surprise the crap out of me.
I'm skeptical of it. I am. I mean, there's a lot to happen between. Florida did have Caleb Banks say today he's coming back, which is interesting. He's maybe their best defensive player, and he's been out. Yeah. So, that tells me that maybe Florida hadn't totally quit in spite of what we saw a week ago. I have no idea. I mean, that to me is just, it's a mystery what we'll get in that game. I mean, we'll probably know a little bit more about Florida on how it handles Ole Miss. I don't think they'll win, but if they lay down and get beat, 51-3, then maybe we know.
I would remind everybody. I've reminded everybody 2 weeks ago, Florida 100% looked like they belonged with Georgia, and dadgum nearly won that game. And then
Yeah,
the next
I
week,
know. Beat
and then the
Texas.
next week they fall completely apart.
Beat Texas after losing 3 in a row and a bye week. Like, if there was ever a scenario where Florida should have, you would have said they're mailing it in, that would have appeared to be one. But I don't have any idea what's coming.
Yeah, it's illogical there.
Heupel's teams have never just laid down at any point that I remember. In fact, I'm 99.9% sure they have not. But they also haven't had a Boo Carter situation either. Although they may, who knows, by that point, they may have marginalized him enough to where it doesn't matter.
Yeah, and there's less than a chance that dude's there next year, no matter what.
Yeah,
I mean,
right.
Even if he wants to be, he ain't there next year.
Well, here's the other side. I like their chances more to go, and whether Tennessee's bought in or not, win a 50-48 type game there.
Oh, they because Diego was banged up last year, they just weren't equipped to do that. This year, as long as he stays healthy against Kentucky and goes into Knoxville 100% healthy in his last regular season collegiate football game with an opportunity to drive a death nail into the Tennessee Volunteers in their own home, you're going to get the best he's got.
Yeah. All right, a couple more on your way out.
Real quick, because I've really got to get. So.
Yeah, Orlando Door, will we see more of the up-tempo offense since it's been so successful?
I would. It's working.
Has to be an option. An option.
Yeah.
All right.
I think it's, like I said, it's all about what's going on. It's about game flow. It's about, you'll know it when you're in it.
Charleston alum's got 3 questions. One's about women's soccer and NCAA. I just don't follow that at all. I can't speak to that. One's about attendance for basketball. We spoke to that. One's about improving the football defense. I think, to me, that's, again, get healthy and 2 weeks to watch film. If you got something else in addition to that, let's have it.
Yeah, because other than that Auburn game, and then if you want to mention Texas, which we can because they look terrible there, our defense for the most part has, they've proven themselves enough this year that I don't have a monster concern about them with what's left. But I mean, don't get me wrong. I have a lot reasons to be concerned about the Auburn game, but at the same time, like I said, and you were right. I mean, Dantas just looked like if he'd have been playing quarterback for them the whole year, they might be 8-2 right now.
Yeah.
Coming into it. I mean, I don't think this was about DJ Durkin. Maybe they got he's a defensive guy, but I just think that maybe it was about opportunity. And of course, he took it and ran with it. I mean, you got a runner in Cobb who's going to go over 1,000 yards this year. And if there's a better receiver in the SEC right now than Coleman, I'm all ears.
Yeah. Reminder, free content at Vandy 24/7 front page. I did a detailed breakdown on their playoff chances. Bottom line, I think the circumstances just got a lot tougher for them. In fact, an interesting thing, I meant to put this in the article and I didn't. ESPN FPI, which is not the end all be all. Okay. It's just a model that, like, they do a better job of assessing probabilities long term than any. I don't know of another resource out there, so it's the one I use. They've got Vanderbilt with, I think, a 34% chance to win out and a 16% chance to make the playoff today, which means win out and you're 50-50.
What are those chances? Then I'm sorry, this has to be the last thing I got to run. But
sure,
if Notre Dame loses, which they could, I love Pitt, and Oklahoma loses, which they should, and Texas loses, which I think they should in Athens. All 3 of those teams are on the road against very, very tough opponents. And in 2 cases, I think they're better than their opponents. I don't think that necessarily is better than Notre Dame, but Notre Dame's awfully good. There's no doubt about that. But so is Pitt, and it's at home. Yeah. You never know. But if all 3 of those teams lose, what does that percentage go up to going into the final week of the season?
It goes up a little bit, but the issue is you got weird stuff in the ACC. You got the possibility of 3 Big 12 teams. I don't think there's going to be 3. I can't see more than 2, but you have 3 teams legitimately battling for maybe 2 spots. And you have a problem with Notre Dame if it loses to Pitt, because then I think that puts Miami and Pitt back in the discussion while it eliminates Notre Dame. And guess what? Those two teams play each other. So if you look up and say Pitt's 10-2 with the win over Miami and a win over Notre Dame, or Miami's 10-2 with a win over Pitt and a win over Notre Dame, then you just maybe slide one of those teams into the spot that Notre Dame occupies. I mean, like the math on it gets really tough. There's a lot of contestants and not as many chairs. The 10-2 is no guarantee.
No, it's not. But I would also say this, that those teams you're talking about, at least one of them would more than likely find themselves in an ACC championship game that were they to lose, and a third loss would effectively kick them out of there. So look, we got to sit back for the ride. The mere fact that we are having this conversation is mind-blowing to me, but only in the best of ways.
Yeah, I mean, it is. It's been fun. Virtual reality is saying the video's cropped weird. Yeah, we've got a new setting on here that is supposed to deliver a different view if you're watching on your phone and you're holding it in portrait mode, which is up and down. I don't think the camera angles are cropped for that. I don't know what to do about it yet. I haven't had the time to dig into it, but that's the issue. If it continues to be an issue that I can't figure out, I'll just take it out. I did put links on the site on the message board for 2 broadcasts. One of them should bring you your normal looking landscape, or just try tilting your phone if that does it. But anyway, I will figure that out. It just may not be this week or next. But anyway, hey, my man, thanks for joining me, and we'll hopefully catch you next week.
Well, you got lucky. I was just about to write an ugly message and put it right up here to the camera.
All right. Well, we'll let you
go. Man, I had a great time. I had a great time, like I always do.
Yeah. All right. Thank you guys for watching. God
bless you. It was going to be ugly. It was going to be particularly ugly.
I bet it would. Anyway, thank you for being here. Thank you for watching and listening. This is the Vandy 24/7 podcast presented by FanDuel.